Hi, I'm Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the show. If you're new here, what's up? If you have been catching up, we're so excited that you're back. Today, we're talking about very interesting subject. I think it's super interesting, at least, honestly.
Yeah.
It's one of the most interesting aspects of like behind the scenes BL stuff, in my opinion. And so I'm super excited to talk about this. I know we say that every week. Like, I'm so excited to talk about this, but just excitable people. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and it's where you get, to me, and I think it's true for both of us, content that isn't necessarily curated. It's like truly spontaneous, fun content that you just, a little extra nugget
Extra
here and there.
boys.
Yeah.
More on your boys. And so the subject of today's conversation is staff and behind the scenes people associated with all of our favorite BL boys. And they're out there. And what's particularly interesting to me about this one is that like I am a creative professional. Like this is like I do creative work as a job for money.
Right.
And so I spent years working in the magazine industry, and I worked really, really closely, and I still to this day, just in a different capacity, work with photographers and stylists and makeup artists and hairstylists. And so I come at it, and a lot of my friends, just like my close personal friends, are photographers or stylists, or they themselves are like creative directors. And so I have a really deep appreciation for what these people do. And you and I share a friend group. And so I know that you are friends with like these same people. And so we just have this like different perspective on it because we see that this is what like our friends do for work.
Right.
And how much they really like of themselves put into it and dedicate to it. And so for me, this has been something that I've always just been interested in following, not just in the BL world, but in the K-pop world, like as a K-pop fan, and kind of like everything else is following the hairstylists and the makeup artists and the fashion stylists and the photographers and the videographers, the managers, the dancers, for the K-pop world.
Yeah, because we know that there's much more than just a talent that goes into these projects, and we kind of can appreciate the whole picture. And so it just makes it way more interesting to see all things that go into putting someone in a beautiful picture or putting someone on a like screen.
Yeah, because like, honestly, you hear this all the time from artists when they're, the video I'm thinking of right now is so Bilkin and PP just won a bunch of Line TV awards, and they both thanked the staff. And you hear that a lot, right? Like artists are always thanking the staff, but it really is because the staff make a huge difference in making this happen. Of course, none of it could happen if it weren't for the talent of the artist, but on the same hand, none of it could happen if it weren't for all of these people that work behind the scenes to make it beautiful and aesthetic and exciting and entertaining. And so we're going to talk about all these staff members because we follow a lot of them, and it gives you so much insight, and you get all of these like extra info that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise get. And so I think we should jump into it by talking about my personal favorite, one of my favorite teams. I have two favorite teams. They share the spotlight. I cannot choose between them. But the first one that I want to talk about that comes to mind, because these are the people that really introduced me to the world of like following all of the stylists in the BL world, and that is the Rookie Thailand team.
Right.
Everyone knows I live on my war agenda. And so it only makes sense that I would go see the people that are making war beautiful for me every day.
You mean more beautiful because
more beautiful. It's true. He's perfect. So I genuinely think that the Rookie Thailand team, specifically like the stylist team, knocks it out of the park every single time. And so the first person I want to talk about is actually my first like behind the scenes staff follow in BL World, which is Pond, who is the makeup artist for Rookie Thailand artists, and specifically War. Because Pond's content is so good. Number one, he does a fantastic job. Like, number one, he is just genuinely a really talented makeup artist.
Yeah.
And we've talked about him a little bit before on the podcast because he did a video with Petch where, because Petch somebody told him he looks like War, which is, I maintain, high praise. And so Petch was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go get my hair and makeup done by War's hair and makeup team.
Yeah.
So he did. And Pond is like in the video and he's talking through all of the, like, basically the way that he does makeup for War, and his like attention to detail in the way that he like makes up War is amazing. And he like has it memorized and he knows, and it's awesome. I'm a fan of his work.
It's so interesting because you also get little nuggets of information about these artists that you really like from someone who's, you know, kind of walking alongside them on their journey. And so it's fun because, like, for example, talking about that Petch thing, you find out something simple as War likes it when he like does his moles after he's done his makeup.
Doesn't like to cover his moles,
which is such a like fun little fact to know about artists. And if, you know, again, we love to kind of get to know these artists even more than, you know, maybe just an interview or something that they've talked about in a professional setting. They're friends with a lot of these people. And
they work with them so closely and so often. So the other fun thing about it is Pond specifically, because he is a makeup artist for all of the Rookie Thailand boys, he definitely introduced me to some of the Rookie Thailand boys that I maybe wouldn't have necessarily like paid attention to.
Yeah.
Like my intro to Big Boom was through Pond. Like Pond was posting about Big Boom and was like he had done something with it. Big Boom and Boom were doing I think a Shopee Live, and Pond had done their makeup for it. And so he was like posting about it. And that was really my intro to Big Boom. Like I knew who he was and I knew that he was in Rookie Thailand, but I didn't really like pay attention to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't really start paying attention to him until Pond was posting like all this fun content with him. Like they were having fun behind the scenes. And so that's another interesting thing about following these staff members and these behind the scenes people is you will get introduced to sort of other people in that world that you might not necessarily know or pay attention to otherwise, which is just such like a cool perspective. Also, you just get to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and the more like casual, relaxed stuff that you wouldn't necessarily get from, like you said, something that's been curated.
Yeah. Also, these people are such cool people. Like these jobs are hard. It's a lot of gig work and a lot of hustle. And so these are like, I enjoy, even if Pond isn't posting for specifically, you know, artists, he does talk about his life and he does post interesting stuff about his life. Mind you, it's all in Thai and I'm having to like Google translate everything, but I still do because I do find it so interesting. Those jobs on a normal basis are so cool.
Well, and because it like you do have to work harder nowadays because the translate function on Instagram has not been working lately, which is so frustrating. But that being said, another person, if we're talking about Rookie Thailand, that is so incredibly creative is their main hairstylist, whose name is Note, who, first of all, have you ever looked at Yin or War's hair and not thought, wow, that's beautiful? No, you haven't. And that's because of Note. So first of all, there's that. Also, because can I just say, literally the best hair in BL in the past year, and I am willing to I will say this definitively, the best hair in BL in the past year belongs to Bonds. 100%. That like the haircut with the gray that he came out with for his most recent single,
that
he's still sporting because it looks that good, that's Note.
Yeah.
Like, Bond's hair is amazing right now. And that's Note. So but good. In addition to being this like amazing hairstylist, Note is also this like really creative human. And so when he's posting behind the scenes stuff, it's this like what feels like very high production behind the scenes videos. Like, he's always curating these like scenes and these different like transitions, and just the way that he places words on the stories, it's really appealing to watch. It's almost like you're getting something that's been like professionally produced, but just like an extra thing because we want to look at Yin's hair or War's hair, right? Like it honestly, I'm pretty impressed with how creative Note is. Like, I think he's good at his job, and then I also think he's just like creative.
Yeah, for sure. I saw a tweet that, because a lot of these people are also on Twitter, and I saw a tweet where somebody posted a photo of like all of Yin's hairstyles, and I don't know exactly what they said, but then Note replied, "I really like the same hairstyle." And I was like, if it works and it looks good, like,
credit where credit's due.
We're fans. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So another person on the Rookie Thailand team that we definitely have to mention is Zom, who is the fashion stylist for most of the Rookie Thailand appearances.
Yeah.
And I am frequently dying over the outfits that War wears. Like, I am always trying to track down, like, what is this piece that he's wearing and how can I buy it and where can I get it?
Shout out to whatever that Instagram account is. What is it?
Oh, War Style. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I follow it because
I couldn't remember. There's a lot of isn't there one that's like War Pattarat Wear?
Wear, W-E-A-R.
Yeah. A lot of W's.
But Zom does such a good job, and I think that like sometimes there will be these fashion, and I am not a fashion stylist, and I very much like defer to my stylist friends and stylists and just am like, teach me, like, tell me what to do. But I think that Zom puts together combinations and outfits that like on the surface don't work, but then you see it all put together, and this is of course a stylish job, but what I like about it is that in most cases, it specifically works for War. If you put that same outfit on Yin, it would not work. If you put that same outfit on Bonds, it would not work. And likewise, a lot of the outfits for Bonds, like especially Bonds, he is the only person that could make that work. And so understand, like the fact that Zom understands that and can put that together, I'm always impressed.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think this whole team really does something really cool and special that it's just fun to watch. And it's especially nice because, again, they are posting on social media because they need to put their work out there, because that's how a lot of these people get work, which is really cool to see, because there is a lot of overlap from different artists where all of a sudden they might do, for example, like Yin War, and then suddenly you're seeing like Bilkin or PP on their timeline, and you're like, whoa, what? Like, this is so cool. So that is the cool thing about following these makeup and hairstylists and stylists, is that if you start to follow them, you'll see the work that overlaps with other artists. And a lot of times they'll just have photo shoots, you know, in downtimes, and it's just, they're just so, I don't know.
You get all this extra content of your boys, and it's amazing. And so a really good example of what we were just talking about is Pattarat, who I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I could not like totally be failing at that.
Yeah.
But Pattarat styles Bilkin and PP pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And specifically styled Bilkin for the Disney Plus launch with the green suit. I cannot tell you. I screamed about that suit and with the loafers and just all of it. And I screamed about that outfit for weeks.
Forever.
I could not stop I still to this day can't stop talking about that outfit. I'm going to get off this episode and I'm going to go watch that performance again. That outfit is incredible.
So good.
The styling on that, like, we're not worthy. But in addition to styling for Bilkin and PP and putting together arguably the styling of the century with Bilkin on Disney Plus, Pattarat has also styled Brightwin and then also did Gulf for Burberry's Fall Winter 2021.
So good.
So it's like there's all this different overlap, right? You have like Gulf, Brightwin, Bilkin, PP. It's like a lot that you kind of like you said, there's overlap, and so you'll get to see a lot of boys, and you'll get to see like the almost like minuscule differences in the way that they style them. And it does put it into perspective that like all of these artists and their personalities and like the personas that they're trying to put out there are different. And not only are they different, but it's reflected in everything they do down to the way that they're styled.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And so Bilkin and PP also have a very interesting, like Bilkin, PP, Nadao, Bangkok have a very interesting behind the scenes crew, because for the most part, they kind of stick with the same crew. Yeah. But specifically with styling, they do kind of jump all over the place, which I think is very cool. Right. Because it gives them this like kind of unique combination of styling. And so another stylist that I want to talk about is Ballionista. Again, could be saying that wrong. I'm like, my bad. Come on the podcast and talk to me about the styling and then I'll get it right. I promise. But so they styled Bilkin and PP, but also PP used them to style for Colors Culture. So all of those pictures that we've all been dying over from PP's merch line that are styled like the way that they put together the different outfits, because of course they didn't pick those pieces. This is a job where PP was like, here's my stuff, do something with it. And just the way they put it together is really, really good. And I just think it's so interesting that like PP carried this over from his like Bilkin and PP work to like his project. And so Bilkin and PP specifically do that a lot. So my favorite makeup artist, and I have loved this person since before I knew that she was a makeup artist.
Oh yeah. So Chick talks about her on a first name basis on the regular.
Literally have never spoken, but I am
convinced that
I have like a friend crush. I think that we would be really good friends. I do. So Parplern is their name. And I first noticed this person with their amazing comedic timing in the Tong Bad Voice Bilkin video.
Yes. Because we didn't know who they were. They just showed up in this music video and Ayla was like, I need to be friends with that person.
Yes, because the comedy and like just the aura and the vibe. I live for it. And so I was like, love that. I knew that all of the extras in the video were people that they like worked with and they knew, but I didn't really know who was who and I couldn't figure it out. And then later on, I ran across Parplern's Instagram and I realized, I was like, oh, or no, I saw them in the documentary is what it was. I saw them in the I Promise You the Moon documentary.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, because the first time I realized who it was and like made the connection was they were on with the hairstylist that did PP's red hair for I Promised You the Moon. Yeah. And they were talking about like the combination of the makeup and the hair and like how that came into play.
Cool thing.
Right. And it was so cool and so interesting and just like so creative. And I was blown away. And so then I started following Parplern and they have a YouTube channel where they do these different videos. And I just think that they're so talented and so funny. Like I have watched the YouTube channel and so funny, like the comedy, the vibe, the aura is all still there. And yeah, I think that's probably like besides Pond, my favorite makeup artists like in the game that I follow.
Yeah, and it's cool because again, like you were saying earlier, it seems like they are such a team because there was a vlog that PP did to see, I think it was either PP's birthday billboards or something from It's Say or I Promised You the Moon. And they all went together to like support each other to see this thing. And it's cool when you have like a team that sticks together like that. We have that a little bit in the US, where you'll kind of get to know the creative team and stylists and things behind it, because there's been like reality shows that have kind of come from that. And I would love to see, I mean, I think that some of them have actually done it with like YouTube channels, but I would totally watch just like a Parplern reality show, following them around all day, doing all their makeup and creative stuff, because the behind the scenes for this La Chapelle photo shoot, because they did so many looks and so many different looks, was so cool to watch, because they truly have to do something totally different for Bilkin as they do for PP.
Right.
But then they did like 3 different stylings for each. And I would argue and say makeup would be the hardest, because like you have just like a blank slate that you have to kind of like create something and to go with like an outfit so that it doesn't overpower it, and it
has to be complimentary, and then it also has to be complimentary to the other person in the picture. Like there's just a lot that goes into it. Yeah, I agree. I would totally watch reality series like Nadal, bring it, I'm in.
I love it so much.
So let's talk about some other behind the scenes professionals, because there are a lot, and there's a lot that goes into it. Number one, like we have to mention her, is Nett. So
yeah,
let's move over to music. Again, I live on my war agenda. I live in Warland. I am the mayor of Wartown.
Rookie Thailand, groupie for life.
For life.
Yeah.
So Nett is a choreographer who also was in a T-pop group like originally, and owns a studio called Dreamcatchers Academy. And that is where Rookie Thailand sends all their boys, and then the boys learn how to dance, or attempt to. And the content, when I tell you the content that comes out of this, it is amazing. So I first found Nett's profile because like war. Because Nett choreographed, I first saw it for the Yin War single that came out.
Yeah.
And apparently, like after I went back and sort of backwatched, Nett had also choreographed for the Free Fire thing that they did with Millie and the other girl whose name I don't remember. All you have to know,
you know more than I do.
You know, the one with the music video and it's like a wedding. It's super funny. Yeah. Anyways, gotcha. Nett also choreographed for that. So that she had this sort of long-standing relationship with them. And so when she choreographed for the single, all of the behind the scenes stuff that she was releasing was just like chef's kiss, golden to any Yin War fan. And it was like so funny. And she has this very interesting relationship with them because she has to be their teacher.
She's very much dance mom vibe.
Right. Like she has to be their teacher, and she has to make sure that they're getting it and that it's going to look good.
Yeah.
And like coach them, because that's her job. Like that is what she's being paid for. It's very important. And she's a professional. But at the same time, she has this like very fun relationship with them.
Yeah.
That's like funny, and you can tell they get along with her. Especially Yin. I just recommend going and following her and watching all her content.
Yeah, she has a YouTube channel, which is really cool.
Yes. And she had released this this clip of rehearsing with Yin War. And it's just kind of funny because you can tell that War is like kind of the more serious one. Like he takes it seriously. He has to get it right, you guys. And Yin like less so.
Yeah.
And you can tell that like her relationship with Yin is like a little bit more fun. Like Yin is more jokey. And
yeah,
the point of this is that you get this insight into their personalities that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise.
Right.
Because as English speaking fans, and you know, most of the people who are listening to this are not native Thai speakers, so you wouldn't necessarily like, there's a lot of stuff that we lose in translation.
Yeah.
That there's like cultural context and jokes and like different phrases that like when you're just reading a translation, you might not pick up on the personality of these boys, like especially Yin. Yeah. I have learned so much about Yin. Recently, he's had this like renaissance of people like translating, but offering that cultural and like jokey context.
Right.
And I'm like, I know so much more about Yin now than I thought I knew. Like he has such a fun personality, but you pick up on that in the content that Nett posts because you get to just sort of like see him joking around and see him doing these things. And so you get this context on their personalities. It's super fun. Also, if you're a fan of Pratt, I'm a fan of Pratt. I really like Pratt. I think he is like the most adorable button. He's in a lot of the content and he's super fun. Definitely. I just like 10/10 cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. We talked about this recently. Ayla and I went down this like behind the scenes of like a fan meeting for this like group of BL boys. And I was like, it's amazing the amount of content that I watched unsubbed for Thai artists, because I never did that for K-pop.
I know.
And it's so interesting because I will sit and watch these boys try to dance and try to sing and do silly things. Even
it was the GMMTV Why I Love You fan meeting, by the way, if anybody's wondering. We spent hours watching it the other day.
I have no clue what they're saying, but I find it so interesting to watch.
None of that was subbed. So none of that content was subbed.
And in fact, none of the Nett stuff was subbed at first. And I 100% watched her video before I got any of the subs. And I will say, like, the subs don't add too much. Like, you can almost gather context clues. Like, yes, thank you for the subs. We do appreciate to know what you're saying. But it's also just like fun to watch.
There's more personality in it than anything else. And that was the deal with the GMMTV Why I Love You behind the scenes stuff for the fan meeting, is none of it is subbed.
No.
And the reason we started watching it is because I noticed I had seen all of that stuff before, like back in the day. Because I'm in addition to living on my war agenda, I think about like Tay and Off a lot. As one does. I had watched all of that, but then I saw Pooin.
Yeah.
And I was like, the first time I watched this, I didn't even know Pooin was here. Because at that point, I hadn't yet watched 'Cause You're My Boy, which is the Drake Frank show, which Pooin and Neo are introduced in.
Right.
And I was like, wait, I need to rewatch all of this so that I can see Pooin and Neo.
Yeah.
Because I, of course, was introduced to Pooin and Fish Upon the Sky. And so I am like, my brain is like, oh, Pond Pooin, not Neo Pooin, which is what's set up in 'Cause You're My Boy. And I was like, I need to watch this because this is like an interesting dynamic. Like, because of course, in Fish Upon the Sky, they're brothers. So it's a completely different like vibe.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I was just like, so we went down this rabbit hole of watching it because I sent it to you and I was like, and it's actually what prompted me to finally watch 'Cause You're My Boy, in addition to so if you watch the episode with Jay, like Jay's recommendation to watch 'Cause You're My Boy, card here, we'll link that video. We'll link that episode with Jay where he recommends that. But those behind the scenes and the personality is real, and that's what's awesome about these behind the scenes staff members, is the personality you get from this content that you wouldn't otherwise maybe pick up on.
Yeah, Absolutely. We would be remiss if we didn't mention another choreographer that we enjoy. Bam Bam's brother actually is a choreographer that shows up for different types of fan meetings. He hasn't done anything lately with any BL boys, but if you go through his Instagram, there's some fun little nuggets of BL content. His name is Bank, and he actually, I believe, has like a choreography studio called Idol Paradise, and they like supply backup dancers to different BL events and stuff like that, and it is so interesting.
Yes, Bam Bam of Got7 fame, because there's also a Bam Bam that writes BLs, so not to be
a choreographer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, not to be. So we're talking like Got7 Bam Bam, like Skirt Bam Bam, his brother.
So good.
Yeah. So some more people I want to talk about.
Yes.
Let's keep with the staff and talk really quickly, very briefly about Gift, who is associated with Wabi Sabi, because she's adorable. Number one, like she has the best fashion sense, but she is like, so this is an example of one of those people that is a staff member, but in a lot of cases, unless you are a Thai speaker, you don't really know like in what capacity.
Right.
But she does help to run Wob and Friends Cafe, is like really good friends with Little Earth, and like Yacht and Sammy and Boone, and like all of those like Wabi Sabi people. And so this is, if you've been paying attention to any of those people's Instagram feeds, you have seen like the little like all of the stuff they're doing for Wob Cafe and Friends right now. Like she's running a lot of that, which I think is so cool. Yeah. And she just has like I just recommend Gift as a follow, because you know, she's one of those people where it's like, yes, her working with the BL actors and actresses is interesting, but more than that, it's like her content and her personality that's like makes it a fun follow. And there are a lot of people like that, but if I was gonna pick one, I would say Gift. And also you get like a lot of fun insight into what's going on in Wob Cafe and Friends, which like, if I'm ever allowed to travel internationally, and God, fingers crossed, light a candle, prayer circle, and I get to Thailand, truly Wob Cafe and Friends is like the first place I'm going.
We're walking off the plane.
I'm walking off the plane and walking to Wob Cafe and Friends. Like that is the place I'm going.
100%. It is fun to see all these random staff members and like, because we're not native Thai speakers, to try to figure out who these people are is like a game that Ayla and I like to play, where like, for example,
we'll be like, who are you?
There's this boy that shows up literally with every BL boy ever. He's a friend of Jenny's. We don't even know his first name. We just we know his Instagram account. He has done reaction videos with Jenny on her YouTube channel, but he's
also works with Rookie Thailand.
Yeah, has shown up in a ton of Rookie Thailand behind the scenes.
In what capacity, I don't know.
We have no idea.
Like my closest guess is photographer, because he shows up on the WXY episode when they go on vacation to the beach and they're like on the boats.
Yeah.
And they have this competition where they're taking pictures, and at one point he like goes and sits in and they're like, oh, we're getting advice from the actual photographer. So I think photography.
Maybe.
But here's the thing, this person, whose name I can't even guess, will put his like Instagram handle in the description. And if you can figure it out and tell us, like, we'd appreciate it. This is another person that I think I'd be best friends with, and here's why.
Yeah.
He loves war as much as I do. He did a hilarious, like the comedy. He did this hilarious cover of that song they did with like Millie and them. Where basically he's like sneaking in and like stealing War's affections from Yin.
Yeah.
And it is the funniest thing that I might have ever seen. It's hilarious. And it is so my vibe. Like we'd be best friends. Literally, this is another situation just like Yin. Yin loves war as much as I love war. We're like, me and this kid whose name I don't know. Somebody so please sorry. Help me. Please Someone help me. Tell us. We're gonna like lock eyes at some point and just like instinctively, like our lizard brains are gonna know, like same. And we're gonna be best friends.
Oh, it's so good. And speaking of Rookie Thailand, their staff member who's in charge of artist relations, he showed up and like just in WXY a lot, and we were like, who is this person? He's never really introduced like who he is, but he always is in their videos. And I think that's the thing, going from K-pop to this. In K-pop, there are moments where you do get to know managers and people who help with artists, but a lot of times they're blurred.
It's few and far between. Totally. It rarely happens. And like it actually happened with our favorite K-pop group, with our old, which is Pentagon.
Yeah.
And what was funny about it is that Pentagon had just gone on tour and we went to see them on tour. And this is just like a weird random story that has nothing to do with BL. But
we're on top.
But we're talking about staff. Yeah. We were waiting for one of the shows to start and we were at this bar that was across the street from the venue. Like we were just having drinks before the show. Because
it happened to be.
It was assigned seating. And so it's like we didn't have to wait in line or anything because we had like actual seats. And so we're just having drinks at this bar that we did not know this was the deal, but the bar faced the like
the stage door.
The stage door of the theater that they were performing at.
Wild.
And number one, we were sitting there and randomly like one of our K-pop boys walked out and we were like, what? But more importantly, shocking. We got to see all of their staff. Like we got to see the makeup artists and we got to see the managers. And there was this one manager, because we went to multiple show dates. There was this one manager that we kept seeing. Like we saw him the first time there. And we nicknamed him Bang's Manager. Because we kept seeing him because we had the high touches and so the managers are always involved in the high touches. Yeah. So we saw him 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
And we nicknamed him Bang's Manager, and we like had this joke that like we were friends with Bang's Manager. And then probably like a month after they got off tour and they were back in Korea, they actually like introduced this manager to the fandom, and like the boys Pentagon started like trying to like get him blind date. It was like hilarious. Yeah. They were, and Kino, who's one of our Pentagon boys, like interviewed him on his show. And it was cute. It was like very exciting because it never happens in K-pop, right? But it happens in BL world, and it's just like, I think it's so interesting when that happens. And so, they do it with Rookie Thailand, but they never introduce him. Like at least with Bang's Manager, we know his real name now.
He like hangs out with Prom a lot because he shows up in his YouTube video that Prom did where they like went camping
in the Another Boy story, right? Yeah, when he's doing the Laneige camping and he's like, I got nothing good from this trip. Love that. Love that moment for Prom.
Gosh, it's so good. So it's just fun to see these staff members and to just like learn about the behind the scenes. And so speaking of, to transition to kind of the last thing we kind of want to talk about, which is the group of people that give us some of the best content, where it feels like they're similar to like kind of what we're doing, right? Where they're talking about content. Yeah. But what I've noticed over time is that a lot of them are YouTubers or interviewers, have some type of like friendship or connection to these BL boys. And they just start these YouTube channels, either doing reactions or interviewing these artists. And because they are familiar with them and friendly with them, you get such good content. Yeah. And so, of course, some of our favorite is like Soul from Soul Sat So Say. She has a really fun YouTube, because if you go through her Instagram, she is legitimately friends with a lot of these people. And what I've noticed in the BL world is there's so much overlap because of university that it's like these people could have known each other for 5 years and they just happen to now be in the entertainment industry. And it is so fun to watch this content because, again, you get rid of that like awkward, I don't know this person, do I trust them kind of energy.
Right.
And
which happens in interviews, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, yeah, specifically with Soul, like I think is just very talented interviewer and just like good at what she does. But also because she's friends with them, you get this like deeper content. And also, honestly, she knows what the people want.
Yeah.
Like, to be completely honest with you, not to turn this into like a Rookie Thailand episode, but she did one episode with Yinwar where Yin is like an hour late. And what I love about that is that she shows it and she shows War getting progressively more annoyed.
And they just tell all these stories about Yin because he's not there. So they get, and it's like their manager is there, like the staff are there. So like they're just able to like tell all these stories because Yin's not there to defend himself.
It's amazing. And you get, and again, this is like what we were getting at, where like, what's great about following these people, besides just getting exposed to like that creative side of things, is that you get this personality. So that personality of like War getting more and more impatient, amazing. Like that's like a little piece of like just War dumb that you wouldn't necessarily know otherwise. Another fun one with Soul is that it was her channel that teased that Bonds was going to be in the best story. Like we knew something was coming with him because they did this like white water rafting situation with all the rookie boys. And she asked and she has this like very playful relationship with the managers. One of the managers, like they're talking about followers and talking about how like really these Rookie Thailand boys got really popular really fast. And they went from like 100 followers. They were talking about prom. They went from like 100 followers to like 1 million followers. And it was just like that. And they were joking about buying followers and stuff like that. It was like really cute and funny. But then she's like, so is Bonds ever going to be in a BL or what? And the manager like kind of clams up and is like, I don't know. And that's how everyone knew. Like that was the clue we got because this was before the cast of The Best Story was announced. So it was the clue that all of us got that like, oh, we're finally going to see Bonds in something. Like he's not just going to be on the side making songs with War, which is just like, another just fun tidbit. And that's because she has this playful relationship with them.
Yeah. She's great. She's across all, like she's interviewed so many of the BL boys. And again, like she does have that like playful energy and she gets good content. So she's definitely a great follow if you're looking to learn more about these actors.
Yeah, which I think this is why this situation is, I would say probably like if you skip over the rest of this podcast and only listen to this section, more power to you. Because as an English speaker and as somebody who like I got into BLs more recently than you, right? It's so much harder for me to find this kind of content for BLs than it is for like even K-pop because I don't know what to search and I can't type in Thai and like there's just so much that goes into it. So like if all you know is to go follow Solsat Sose, like you're good.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Speaking to that, there's another channel that I found that I really loved, and it's like mostly English subbed. And I think some people have subbed it kind of on the side, but it's all written in Thai. But I finally found the English translation so that you can find this channel too. And it's a reaction channel and it's 4 people. And what's fun is they showed up in Lovely Writer. So at the beginning of Lovely Writer, when they're kind of doing like a nod to like BL culture, when Kawana Turbo shows up, they also show this group of reactors. And I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce this correctly, but the English like I guess maybe romanization of this channel is like Nung Narong. And it's so fun because James, the the main person that does a lot of these, kind of leads the reaction videos and talking about this stuff. He also has a YouTube channel with his boyfriend, and they tend to interview different actors, but apparently he also has an artist agency and has been doing that stuff. And so he'll go live on Instagram a lot with different artists. And so that's a really, when I first got into BLs, that was almost one of the first channels that I found for behind the scenes content, because they do reaction videos with the artists. So for like Tharn Type, they did an episode with Mew Golf, and for Until We Meet Again, they did a video with Fluke, and they actually did like a whole cast reaction with the Until We Meet Again cast and the director, and those videos are so fun. Like, there are tons of reaction videos and they're enjoyable to watch, but when you have the actual actors there, and these guys feel like us, like they feel like fans, because they're losing their mind, and they'll like pause the video and look over at the artist and be like, do you understand how this is affecting me? Like,
which is exactly all any of us want. Yeah. Is like, do you understand? Do you know what you do?
It's so good. I really love this channel. Another great channel that has some good interviews is Goy Natty Dream. They're one of my favorites because they have relationships with these people from university. One of the best
on a professional level,
right?
So Goy Natty Dream are their names, and Goy is in I Promised You the Moon and is on the writing team for It's A and I Promised You the Moon.
Yeah.
And so, like, not only does she know Bilk and Pee-Pee, like, she has professionally worked with Bilk and Pee-Pee. And I actually, like, speaking of Bilk and Pee-Pee, my introduction to Goy Natty Dream was they did a video, like, where they were talking about Bilkin and Pee-Pee, and they were specifically talking about Bilkin. And they say this iconic line that we say all the time now. Honestly, it's just a part of our like everyday vernacular, not just about Bilkin, but about like random boys.
Yep.
They said about Bilkin, and anybody who loves Bilkin will like, you're gonna feel this on like a molecular level. Is they said about Bilkin, when I first saw this boy, I thought he's so plain looking, and then he started singing.
Oh.
Yes. Like, that is 1,000,000% how you describe Bilkin. Like, and so what's interesting about it is that, like, these people know him on like a personal level and a professional level. Yeah. And so the fact that they still said that, and it reflects the way that like we feel, it makes it so relatable. Because I think one thing I always wonder is like, do the people who just like know these BL boys, especially in Thailand, because the culture around acting in the entertainment industry and BLs is like, it's just different to what the entertainment industry is in the West. And even like, if you look at it in Taiwan or in the Philippines or in South Korea, it's very unique. And so I always wonder, like, do they get it? Like, do the people who work with these boys and who know these boys on a personal level, like, are we just crazy and like these people are not that interesting in real life? And so to get that sort of like validation that like, no, what you're feeling is what the people who know them in real life are also feeling is just awesome. I don't know. I think it's so interesting and it's really great.
Also, I will say that's what the heart of this conversation is, right? Is that we see what we see on screen. A lot of times it's given to us, it's curated, it's something that is produced, right? And so when you follow these staff members, when you get to know the behind the scenes, you get more of like the real version of these artists. And I think that's so fun. And a lot of times you'll also get the like history too. Goy Natty Dream interviewed Up, and it's fun because Up actually dated one of the girls in college, and so that dynamic is so funny that now suddenly he's like a big BL actor and like he's been friends with this girl for forever. And it's so fun to just hear like the stories of the good old days and like all those kinds of things. Because, yeah, to your point, you get to know like more depth to these people and you get to appreciate them more. I feel like going back to that conversation that you were telling us that we were talking about, like following Pentagon, once we like got to know kind of a little bit more, it humanizes these people. And we're like, there's a familiarity that like is nice, that you're like, it almost makes it more casual, where you're like,
yes,
you take them off that huge pedestal.
The pedestal.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because, you know, if we're talking about that Pentagon Prism experience, what happened with it once we had our little jokes about Bang's manager, because we did interact with him a little bit because he was like crowd control and things like that.
Yeah, he got intense at our last stop, which was awesome.
At the last stop, something went down before the high touch with like a say-saying. This is not the platform to talk about say-sayings, but something did happen.
Yeah.
And it delayed the whole thing. And so when we got there to do once they finally calmed it down and they let us in for the high touch, Bang's manager was like
first in line,
acting as a bodyguard almost to them, just to make sure that like nothing else went down as well they should.
Right.
And so the way it was, like, it looked like he was one of the members waiting.
No, I wish I had high-fived him.
Exactly. And so what that did for us is, at that point, they were still our K-pop idols and we still like loved them and appreciated their talent. But at that point, it was like, it was almost funny and it takes the nerves out of it. And so, seeing these people that you sort of idolize is like a little bit more human, I think is good for fans and 100%. Fan culture in general.
Yeah.
Because once you can realize that like we're all people and like what that means. And so on one hand, it makes it so that you understand that like, yes, you're freaking out about them, but like they're still a person just like you. They're not any better than you. They're not any worse than you. They're just a person. But also, I think that it goes a long way in keeping fan culture healthy, because what that means, once you can see these people as people, it makes it harder to do things like harass them or trash talk them on the internet or do like things that you shouldn't be doing in the name of like, oh, well, they're a celebrity and I'm a fan. And so, and it also helps you to understand, like, this is a real person, but I don't actually know them. Yeah. And so it helps to like build that very clear, like, fan artist relationship where it's like, we do have a relationship, but it's a certain type of relationship. And so I just think that getting to know the behind the scenes, not only to appreciate their work, because the main thing here is that none of our artists, none of our BL boys or girl or, you know, any of the actors that are in these BL shows could do what they do without these people. Yeah. Like, let's not get it twisted. These people are integral to like our experience as fans. So credit where credit's due. Like, they really deserve more appreciation than just an episode on a podcast. But also, I think that it's just like important to humanize BL actors because they're just people like us.
Yeah. But all that to say, we still think PP is a gift from God.
Yeah, PP is still an earth angel. Like, honestly, he's not human. He's ethereal.
There's a pedestal that will never be taken down, and it has PP and Boone.
I don't know. I feel like I could chill with Boone.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe without the tattoos. I don't know.
I feel like I could totally chill with Boone. Boone has this sort of like nervous energy. Like, he has this like chihuahua energy almost that it's like,
I feel like a retainer on him and a bunny will be fine.
I feel like I would be the calming energy in that like scenario, which never happens. And so I just feel like it would be totally fine.
That's probably true. That's fine. Okay. I think that's all for us today on this episode. Thanks again for joining. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You're not going to want to miss any episode because we have some exciting things coming. We're so thrilled that you've joined us today, and join us next time on Let's Talk BL.